I was outside walking my dogs, and my dogs were looking at me, and I'm doing my thing, and they look at me like it's like, what the heck is he doing? Get my dance on. Shut up. three,
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, blah.
7, 8, and 1.
Is that what the prompter? That's the one.
The last minute scramble is that one.
Right.
Oh, this is not last minute.
Today we're talking something.
Yeah, the other round is that, I'm sorry.
Oh, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry.
I was trying. They're like, I'm going to be there on the 12th.
Let's knock it out, right? Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, that's gonna work.
See, these are gifts that you can only get at Concord Mills.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Good.
I just think they just need to rotate.
Okay.
I'm going to roll through the prompter because this is not the correct segment. Oh, okay, then I will not do that then.
You got to switch.
It'd be great if we could do right before the show, right there. If there's time, but we might not have time. I want you to find the one that you were
Oh
talking
yeah, I'm gonna definitely find that
Okay.
one.
Are you done with your holiday shopping?
Not wrapping, but I'll
Yeah.
do that this weekend. It's all in my office hiding. Yeah, the first one is this one. Yes. Okay.
I'm lazy. I give money.
Yes.
Yes,
Well,
can.
the older ones, sometimes we do give gift cards, but they need,
Yes, this is it.
yeah.
And this one airs today. This is what
Yes.
we want.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
got here 30 minutes early just to get everything.
Oh, thank you. Oh, gosh.
Well,
It
and I
was-
come from Mooresville too, so.
Oh, girl. Oh, my gosh. That's a lot.
I wonder if I have that, not that train, but I think I have the Lionel train from back in the days for nostalgia purposes.
How long does it take?
Y'all can tighten it up, guys, if you want, if you can. Okay. All right, are we ready? Happy Friday, everybody. Good morning. It's great to be with you today. I'm honored to be standing up here with a number of law enforcement agencies that were involved in a pretty robust operation that was primarily here in the Midlands, but obviously supplemented by operations around the state to bust various vape shops and warehouses that were basically peddling illegal products around the state of South Carolina. On December 9th, a state grand jury operation known as Ganjapreneur, Ganja and entrepreneur put together, in case you're wondering what that means, Ganjapreneur was conducted. It resulted in 40 narcotics charges against 12 defendants. What's interesting is this was a months-long coordinated operation involving the state grand jury, the Attorney General's office, but most importantly, our lead state agencies, the State Law Enforcement Division, obviously also co-led by our federal partner, the Drug Enforcement Administration. There were about 10 law enforcement agencies that were involved in the Midlands operation, but about 30 other agencies were involved statewide at various other areas of the state. I would like to identify some of the people who are here today who played a role in this operation, then we'll talk a little bit about the particulars of the operation. Again, these operations are local, state, and federal coordinated. That means there's a lot of moving parts going on in here. So I want to give a special thanks to State Law Enforcement Division Chief Mark Keel, who is my right hand in law enforcement. I hope he feels the same about me, but without him and the folks at SLED, we couldn't do our jobs, and I want to thank him, and you'll be hearing from him literally in just a moment. I want to thank DEA Assistant Special Agent in Charge Michael Tooley, who you will also hear from. Obviously, within our own state grand jury division, we have a lot of men and women, support staff and attorneys working, but principally our two primary folks on this case were Creighton Waters and Jennifer McKellar, along with their support staff. Homeland Security Investigations is another ally and partner of ours. We had the Union County Sheriff's Department. I know Sheriff Jeff Bailey was helpful. Max Dorsey, Chester County Sheriff's Office. Elgin Police Sergeant Aaron Threat is here today. Surfside Beach Police Chief Bill Mickle. Camden Police Chief Jack Rushing, my dear friend from over many, many years. Columbia Police Chief Skip Holbrook. Berkeley County Sheriff's Office Captain Christopher Dirks. Aiken County Sheriff's Office Major Jason Griffin. North Charleston Police Department Chief Al Kakler, excuse me if I mispronounced that. Myrtle Beach Police Assistant Chief Chris Smith and Lieutenant Ryan Mendala. Spartanburg County Sheriff's Office Captain Philip Wilkie and Lieutenant Joe Ferris, and Tuckapee Police Major James Patterson. Again, Lexington, Richland, our National Guard partners, the Columbia PD, the airport, the FBI, HSI, even East Baton Rouge District Attorney's Office was involved. This is a multi-layered operation that was conducted this past week on December the 9th. What you have here, and there should be scrolling pictures of what was seized, and you can see on the monitors here around the room. And there should be copies of these products that have been provided to you. That were things that were seized as part of this operation. I omitted a couple of people also. I want to go back. I do have my hometown sheriff, Jay Kuhn, who was here. Jay is standing up here. We also have Solicitor Kevin Brackett, someone I work very closely with. And then, of course, Representative Chris Wooten, who has been a major leader in the legislature on trying to pass laws that address this very issue. On December 9th, I told you we had 40 narcotics charges against 12 defendants. This operation involved the serving of search warrants on 6 residences, 6 warehouses, 2 storage units, 1 vape shop, principally here in Richland and Lexington County. We seized about 8 U-Hauls, which is the 26-foot long U-Hauls, 8 U-Hauls worth of product totaling about 30,000 pounds. This is marijuana, pre-rolled marijuana, cigarettes, vapes, oils, dabs, serps, things of that nature. These products, these raids, these operations were not conducted and targeted against retail stores who were unknowingly and unwittingly selling something that they did not know was illegal. This operation targeted basically drug trafficking operations that were selling products that had been marketed with the express purpose of giving people the perception that these products are not only safe, but they are approved by the DEA. In fact, I think some of the packaging even says DEA approved. To my knowledge, the DEA is not in the business of approving weed. So these things are actually stamped on the packaging. You can look at some of the packages. You got Obi-Wan Kenobi, you got Stonios, you got these they look like Skittles, they look like Oreos, they look like gummy bears. These things are marketed with the specific intention of marketing to minors. There are dozens of vape shops around Fort Jackson and other military installations. They're marketing towards soldiers. I mean, there's a national security component to this. So this is a very robust operation. These people were knowingly selling something that they knew was illegal here in South Carolina with the intent of profiting from it, and they were targeting minor children. I want to say again how incredibly grateful I am to the people who were able to show up here today and the many, many more who are around the state of South Carolina who are not with us here today. But this is not just about weed. This is about protecting our children because this stuff is intentionally being marketed to children around South Carolina. In fact, you can see the DEA approved packaging right up there on the screen. This is what they do. The bad guys are basically, they've gone from actually selling bricks of marijuana to basically selling products that have been designed to cover up the fact that you're basically buying straight up marijuana. And it's being marketed to children. So with that being said, I want to offer an opportunity to Chief Keel to come up here and address what his agency did in this operation. And I want to thank Chief Keel again for his long ongoing partnership.
Thank you, General. I first want to second what the General said with regards to our law enforcement partners. None of what we do is ever successful without the help of our law enforcement partners. And we are very fortunate here in South Carolina that we have great relationships. We get together and we get things done, and that's what's happened in this case. I also want to thank the media for being here this morning to cover this important matter. I want to thank all the SLED agents and personnel, all the federal agents, deputies, local police officers who have worked for months to make this case. On Tuesday, December 9th, as the General has said, federal, state, and local law enforcement served 13 search warrants here in Richland, Lexington County, 6 on residents, 6 in warehouses. We arrested 12 of the 14 targets in this investigation, and of those 14 targets, 12 were foreign nationals. Simultaneously, law enforcement officers and our law enforcement partners around the state served additional search warrants and arrest warrants. All of these warrants were related to illegal distribution and trafficking of marijuana and THC products into and around South Carolina. I've been sounding the alarm about the dangers of marijuana and THC products since South Carolina first introduced legislation back in 2014. And as I have stated many times, we don't know the unintended consequences of passage of legislation such as that. I've also stated many times that those who traffic this drug don't care about the people that they're trying to traffic it to. They don't care who it's sold to. They don't care about the quality of the product, and they don't care about the impact of THC products on our citizens, and especially our most vulnerable, our children. They only care about one thing, and that's money. And I'm going to say it again. That's the only thing they care about is money. Money that is laundered overseas to further additional criminal enterprises. This is not only a threat to our citizens, but is also a Homeland Security threat as well. Across South Carolina, these THC products have been illegally trafficked into this state and through a complex distribution scheme distributed to vape shops and convenience stores to be sold to anyone who wants them. They are regularly marketed directly to our kids with tragic results. No one knows what's in these products. They're unregulated, they're untested, they're illicit, and they're THC products. This investigation sought high-level suppliers with direct supply and distribution chains. These suppliers sought to peddle these products to anyone who would buy them, but in turn, they were directly profiting off of our citizens and our children, and it's unconscionable. Today, I want to make it clear, we in law enforcement in South Carolina stand united in our effort to rid our state of these dangerous and illicit products. And at this point, I want to introduce Assistant Special Agent in Charge Mike Tooley with the DEA.
Morning. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Michael Tooley, and I'm Assistant Special Agent in Charge with the United States Drug Enforcement Administration. I want to begin today by thanking Attorney General Wilson and his office for putting this press conference together and bringing you all here to hear about this important topic, but also for his office's support of this investigation with Jen McKellar and Creighton Waters. I would also like to thank Chief Keel and the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division for their close collaboration, as this investigation would not have been possible without their continued support and their partnership. Staying with us today on this stage are chiefs and sheriffs from across the state who have been on the front lines listening to concerned parents, educators, and community groups about the dangers of unregulated THC and synthetic products that are being sold and marketed as illegal products in gas stations and vape shops across the state and across the country. Each person up here can tell their own story of someone in their jurisdiction who has fallen victim to the dangers of these products and this poison that is plaguing our system and our society. We are all here today as a unified front to stand up to our most vulnerable and valuable asset, which is our children. We're here to try to educate the parents and the community on the dangers of these illegal and unregulated products, but to also send a very clear message to anyone selling, facilitating, or making money off of these products that what you're doing is a crime, and we will utilize every resource available to us to bring you to justice. DEA remains committed to enforcing federal drug statutes, to include the illegal distribution of unregulated synthetic substances that the federal government has deemed as drugs and chemicals of concern. This is a whole-of-government approach to a very dangerous situation that is negatively impacting the health of Americans, especially teenagers, college-age students, and members of the United States military. Illicit marijuana continues to be the most commonly used illicit drug in the United States. And since marijuana potency studies started in 1995, potency has increased from approximately 4% to 16% in 2022. THC levels of many of the products sold throughout the state of South Carolina, such as dabs or edibles, are oftentimes much higher, reaching potency levels as high as 90%, thus further putting our children at greater risks of accidental poisonings due to the attractive and misleading packaging of these products. The Department of Justice has found that Chinese companies are making billions of dollars by pushing these dangerous chemicals into our communities, preying on our youth and corrupting the minds of hardworking Americans. Nationally, DEA has seen members of Chinese and Asian transnational organized crime groups controlling the illicit marijuana market across the United States. Many of those products shipped across the United States and into the state of South Carolina. Proceeds from these operations are then repatriated back to mainland China through sophisticated money laundering schemes involving the Chinese underground banking system. Chinese-run marijuana operations in the United States currently are producing the most potent form of marijuana with an average THC content of 25 to 30%, compared to the national average of domestically grown marijuana is 16%. Many of the illegal products being sold around the state are deliberately marketed to mislead members of the community, including military service members. Alarmingly, there are approximately 50 vape and smoke shops within a 5-mile radius of 3 of the larger military installations in South Carolina, highlighting a deliberate attempt by these organizations to target and impair U.S. service members. This jeopardizes their health, careers, and operational readiness. The military relies on its members to be of sound mind, capable of performing their duties with clear judgment and physical ability, and counterfeit and illicit substances can trigger positive drug tests, cause unexpected impairment, lead to medical emergencies, and lead to addiction and substance abuse problems. These consequences ripple through entire units and undermine the strength of our armed forces. Targeting military personnel for profit is not only irresponsible, but also a direct threat to the safety and security of our nation. The DEA and our partners will not tolerate criminal networks that endanger our military members and their mission to protect this country. As you spoke about earlier, simultaneous to this enforcement operation detailed by the Attorney General, DEA and SLED partnered with our law enforcement counterparts across the state to send a very clear message to anyone involved in the distribution of these illicit, unregulated, and dangerous products. Through their commitment to the residents and the youth of South Carolina, search and seizure warrants were executed at approximately 70 smoke shops and other locations selling these illegal products across the entire state of South Carolina during the week of December the 8th. That's approximately 30 agencies covering 17 counties across the entire state, all through a coordinated enforcement operation to protect our youth. This operation shows what coordinated law enforcement can achieve. By working side by side with our state, local, and federal partners, we removed thousands of pounds of illegal THC products, including edibles and vapes, and psilocybin-based products from circulation. By seizing their illegal inventory and additional millions of dollars in assets from these organizations, we have severely crippled members of this organization and others across the state from continuing to distribute this poison in our communities and to our youth. DEA and our law enforcement partners are committed to protecting our communities and stopping those who push illicit drugs disguised as harmless treats. DEA will continue to prioritize these investigations that safeguard public health and protect our communities from these dangerous, illegal, and unregulated substances. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Assistant Special Agent in Charge Tooley, we appreciate your support. Also, in just a second, you're going to hear from Creighton Waters, but I just want to say that there's two things going on here. Obviously, South Carolina has a law that allows for the sale of THC infused things, products up to 0.3% by dry weight. But when you take a green leafy substance and you convert it into a liquid or an edible, you could have a far higher, because of how it's transformed in that manufacturing process, you could have a situation where someone's drinking a sugary drink that is infused with THC, what appears to be legal, but this like smoking 3 or 4 joints. And that can have very dangerous consequences, both to the health of the individual consuming it and to people around that person, especially if they're in a motor vehicle. But that's not what this is. That is another issue that we asked the General Assembly to address. But I am not aware that it is against the law to sell these things to minors. I would like the General Assembly to take that up. I would also like the General Assembly, and I'll give Representative Wooten in a moment, just a moment to tell you a little bit about what's going in the legislature. But what's going on here is people knowingly selling something that is no less illegal than if they just had a full bag of green leafy marijuana, right? They are taking it, they are knowingly repackaging it, they know that it's illegal. We have a very strong investigation with ample evidence that proves that they knew what they were doing was wrong. And then they're purposely selling it for what Chief Keel said, for profit. They are trying to profit off the lives of children. And so this really is a serious, serious thing, and we would ask the legislature to take this seriously. I know that they're looking at some serious bills in the General Assembly, but this is something that we're going to come after them. This isn't innocent retailers accidentally selling something they didn't understand. This is people knowingly selling something that they knew was illegal and very harmful. At this time, I would like for Creighton Waters to step up here and talk just a little bit about the operation as he was involved in it.
All right, thank you, General. Again, my name's Creighton Waters. I'm the Chief Attorney of the State Grand Jury. Again, this was a State Grand Jury operation, Ganjapreneur. And this is what State Grand Jury does. I mean, look around me and you can see all of these different agencies that all came together in this one investigation to do something that needed to be done. And I think it's very important to make it clear that it's not, quote, just weed, okay? We're not talking about the Mexican dirt weed that maybe somebody smoked behind a bleacher in high school 30 years ago. As you heard from ASAC Tooley, the potency of these products has increased exponentially. But beyond that, not only is the potency very, very high, and I can also tell you anecdotally, And I have a lot of friends in the psychiatric industry that work in our local hospitals, and they say to me, they say, Creighton, you keep talking about fentanyl and you keep talking about meth, but the problems that we're seeing is always cannabinoids. Okay, because of the high potency of these particular products that we're talking about. These products are illegal and they are very intoxicating. The other thing I want to talk about is that people need to understand, and you can look at the images behind me and the way that these things are marketed. No longer can people hide behind the idea that just because it's sold in a store or just because the package says it's supposedly tested or DEA certified, which is patently absurd, that this is a legal product. Look at how these are marketed. They are made to resemble candy, cookies, and things like that. But if you look on them, you can see the cartoon characters. They're clearly intoxicated. They're clearly high. No one who's selling these products can claim that they didn't know that these are meant to be intoxicated. People don't pay $70 a gram for potpourri. All right? If they're coming in your store and paying this kind of money that are weighed out just like drugs are, they're not buying it for potpourri. They're buying it because they are intoxicated and they are intoxicants and they get people high. And we are seeing these prevalent more and more to children. The general mentioned a little bit about the national security aspect and did ASEC Thule. And what we see, as we do with fentanyl and other drugs, is that many of the precursors for these intoxicants come in from China. The administration has currently identified the cartels as a foreign terrorist organization. And we also have seen nationwide prevalence of vape shops selling these types of products around military installations. There are over 20 within 5 miles of Fort Jackson alone. And this has an effect on the readiness of our soldiers as well. Ultimately, we seized in this particular case in the Midlands alone, I want to say this again, 30,000 pounds of product, whether just straight up weed, marijuana, whether pre-rolled cigarettes, whether it was edibles, whether it was dabs, whether it was oils, whether it was syrups. And the potency of these particular things are all very high. And all of these products that were seized, we had previously done an investigation and seized like products and had tested them, and they all tested hot. Okay? They all tested hot. So what we want to do today is be very clear. First of all, we wanted to make parents aware. We wanted to make citizens aware of what has been commonly and openly sold in stores all through our communities. It used to be that the master shops were everywhere, and now it's the vape shops. They're everywhere. And parents need to know what these products are and that not only are they illegal, but they're very intoxicating. Okay, we needed to send that message. We needed to advise people and make people aware that no matter what the package says, if you buy these products and use them, not only are they illegal, but you will test hot. You will test hot for THC. We need to make the store owners aware that no longer can they hide behind what the package says, that if you sell these products, they are illegal. And if you sell them to minors, that is particularly something that we are going to go after. And we want to say very strongly to those who distribute and traffic these products in South Carolina, you are on notice now that we will charge you with drug trafficking because that's what it is under our law, and that's what we charge some of the individuals in this case. Thank you.
So you've heard from some of our leadership at the state and federal level. Again, I want to thank, we had a couple sheriffs, elected sheriffs that are here, Max and Jay. You got our solicitor Brackett, thank you for being here. But also we have partners in the General Assembly. And I just briefly wanted to give Representative Wooten, who's been a leader on this, former law enforcement officer himself, and I know there's some bills and things going on in the General Assembly. I was going to give you just a moment to address that and talk about that real quick.
Sure. Thank you, Jim. Thank you all, and I'll say first and foremost that if you look around this stage and you see all the people that are here, it starts at the Attorney General's office, because I've been around this game for a long time. I was a trooper back in the 90s, and I've not seen an Attorney General be as strong against this and against protecting our families as Alan Wilson has been. So not just kudos off to him and his agency and his folks that make all this possible. Second thing is in the General Assembly, Just last year, I introduced a bill that dealt with, currently, if you have a 16, 15, 14-year-old daughter or son, they can go into a convenience store and they can buy a beverage or a consumable that can access or have the amount of THC in it that would have 4, 5, 6 joints in that. Obviously, it processes differently. That kid gets in a car an hour later, now is finally feeling the effects, ends up killing themselves or someone else, and we have nowhere to turn back that clock to say, hey, we were never told about this. There was no age restrictions. In South Carolina right now, you don't have to be 21 or 25 or anything else to buy one of these products. So the bill that I introduced last year was a larger bill. It got condensed down to a smaller one that said the two most important things is let's get an age restriction on any of these hemp-derived beverages, and let's also make sure that these certain synthetics cannot be in this product. That bill's over in the Senate now, so I encourage you to speak to your senators to at least get started on this. I think there's going to be a lot of amendments added to that to start addressing this problem. But the main thing I want to say in this operation is what we get in the legislature a lot of times is the fact of, well, we're hurting the mom and pop businesses, right? So, but if you see the people that got arrested or the people that got hurt during this, it's not your mom and pop that's doing things right. The people that are getting arrested are the people that are doing it. And I just encourage people to not let the folks that are selling this play on the heartstrings or create the false narrative of we are hurting small businesses, the mom and pop vape shops. If they're selling these things, you don't hear us having a problem with putting out the mom and pop crack dealer on the side of the road. So I don't think we should have a problem putting out anybody or arresting and holding accountable the people that are doing this thing the wrong way. So with that being said, you're going to see a lot of stuff in the legislature this year with whether it comes to licensing and taxing and regulations. You're going to hear a lot of those talks, but we don't make laws for people that are doing it right. We make laws for people to hold them accountable. And once again, General, thank you for leading the charge on this along with your folks.
I got a lot of people up here leading.
You do.
Do you have the bill number?
If you don't have it, not off the top of my head.
3924. H 3924 is the bill number, H 3924. If you want to write that down and go check it out, follow that. We would encourage y'all to report on it because it's important, and there's a lot of other issues we'll take up. Okay, we're going to conclude this. I want to conclude this, and then we'll go to questions if you have any. To people out there who are knowingly selling something that you believe is illegal, that you know to be illegal, we are coming for you. You heard it said earlier, we are coming for you. To the parents out there, just because you have something in a fluorescent rainbow packaging with a cartoon character on it, and it looks and sounds like it's, you know, a child edible or a child beverage, does not mean that it is. These things can be deadly. They can be harmful. It can ruin people's lives because you will pop hot as if you smoke 2, 3, 4, 5 marijuana cigarettes. So this is real. This is very real. We are coming for you. You know, enough is enough. And we want to thank everyone for being up here today. None of this would have happened if it hadn't been for the men and women, boots on the ground, in multiple jurisdictions across the whole state of South Carolina, working together for the common good. And I want to, again, thank everyone for being here today. And to our friends in the media, your role is to tell the story, to educate people, because all the work that we're doing is no good if people don't know about it. So we appreciate you being here today, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have. Mary Green, the first one out the gate.
Well, because you mentioned the legislation, so dovetailing off that, obviously, as has been mentioned many times, these products are blatantly illegal. Representative Wooten, your bill concerns products that are legal but don't have any regulation right now. For whoever wants to take this, could you explain how, even indirectly, how passing that legislation could still help y'all crack down on these bad actors who are already acting illegally?
I'll take the first stab at it, and if anyone wants to supplement me, feel free to do so. I talked about that earlier. You know, there's two kinds of things. We're talking about things that are actually illegal on their, I mean, not just, and they're facially illegal. And then there are products that there's a law that's been passed that there are things that are legal up to 0.3% THC by dry weight in whatever consumable product it is. There's a manufacturing process that when you when you think about 0.3% by dry weight, okay, when something is green and leafy and through the manufacturing process it gets infused into a sugary drink that's 12 or 16 or 24 ounces, or it's a bag of candy, right? All of a sudden you're consuming a lot more THC because it's synthetic. So you're consuming a lot more than you would as if you were, the dosage and duration are not controllable, and you could be consuming a lot more. So when you convert from a dry weight percentage to something else, that is where the law, there's a gap in the law, and that is being exploited by some, and others are unknowingly and unwittingly, selling things that could have a higher than legal amount allowed. I don't know if anyone else wants to take a stab at it.
General, I'll just add one thing. I think that what we need right now, and that dry weight problem has existed because when the law was passed, they were only thinking about green plant material. And so it's Delta 9 only. Delta 8's illegal. Want to remind everybody of that. Delta 8 is illegal, but it's 0.3% Delta 9 by dry weight. So what happens is, particularly in these drinks, and I want to say this, I'm going to say this out right now, is that we had to leave a lot of the drinks behind, even though they have 3 or 4 joints of high-grav THC in them. And that's because the industry realized that they could formulate these drinks with enough sugars and salts so that when we dry it out and test it, even though it's very, very intoxicating, it still tests underneath that limit. And the problem with that is, the big problem with that is that when people smoke marijuana, it's almost an instantaneous effect, and they smoke till they get high and they stop. But when you drink one of those beverages, the effects are not instantaneous, okay? And all of a sudden, you've consumed 3 or 4 joints. And then it hits 30 or 40 minutes later, and you're there for the ride, okay? And that's where we're seeing a lot of the intoxicating effects that then lead to severe intoxicating effects, that lead to DUI issues, that lead to trips to psychiatric wards. This dry weight problem that's been exploited by the industry has been fixed in recent federal legislation. However, it has a sunset provision that's not going to apply until November of 26. So we need strong legislation from the state legislature now. And the first thing I think we need to do is to criminalize and have stringent, strict penalties for the sale of any of these products to minors. And at least that would be a solid first step to make it to the sunset provision. And again, ultimately, there is a lot of legislative work, both on the federal and state level, that needs to be done to stop this from being the Wild West that it is. But that's what it's been here in South Carolina, is the Wild West. Those days are over.
General, real quick.
Yeah.
Just if you don't mind.
No, please, Chris. Absolutely.
I'm just not as, I'm a little bit more apprehensive at this point to have faith in the federal government to regulate this for us. I don't think that we're going to see this many DEA agents come into South Carolina to enforce these laws. I think that the question was asked of me, that why do we need to continue with it as a state law with the federal government, if the federal government is going to do something about it in a year. I think that the federal government put that, personally, just by speaking to some of my colleagues in D.C., that they tried to put a little squeeze on the lemon, saying you need to get us some decent legislation so we can regulate this stuff the right way. We're not going to ban it. I don't think it's the intent to ban it federally, and even if it was, South Carolina needs to be able to enforce those laws. So we need to give these folks up here in the grind every day the ability to enforce those laws and give them some teeth, so you're not just out there beating the ground, working yourself to death, and then nothing happens to the people that are doing it. So that's the reason we're going to tackle it on the state perspective, as well as seeing what the federal government does. That's fine, but at the state level, we need to take care of it. So thank you, Joe.
Absolutely.
And I will say this. I've spoken, and I know Chief Keel and others up here have spoken to a lot of folks in the industry, the people who manufacture drinks and edibles. And what I've heard from a lot of people is that they do want this regulated. There are people out there who want to follow the law, who want to sell a safe, beverage or a safe consumable item to a person of age, and they want predictability, right? They want regulations that give them a legal pathway to engage in this industry. And so that is what we're counting on the civil side of this issue. We want the legislature to address some of the gaps and the loopholes in the law that have made it cloudy and murky for people to engage in this industry. But on the other side, we want stronger penalties, criminal penalties. We want to be able to go after these people. I mean, we're obviously going after them now. You've seen 40 charges of trafficking and possession with intent to distribute. And again, the evidence in this investigation, this is not people accidentally selling something that they didn't know was illegal or above the legal limit. This is people knowingly selling something that they knew was illegal, and the specific facts of the operation will bear that out, either in a plea or in a trial if it comes to that. But again, there's two components to this, and the legislature needs to step up. And so the law enforcement is stepping up now, and we need the legislature to continue to help us. Any other questions?
What about the stores and the store owners? Any arrests there or closures?
The Ganjapreneur operation focused mainly on, focused only on warehouses and primarily on the warehouses that were supplying many of these various stores and that sort of thing. Throughout the state, many of the local partners conducted their own operations, and there were some stores that were hit at that point. But as far as our stats that we're here to talk about today, we're talking about the Ganjapreneur operation, which again was trying to hit the warehouses that supply many of these stores.
I was going to say, what about going into the future? Will you be going after stores also?
We're going after people who are knowingly violating the law.
I've got a couple of questions. How much cash was seized in the Midlands yesterday? What are your initial counts?
2 million?
2 million in cash?
Well, $2 million in assets.
How about cash?
I am told by the DEA that's pending official count.
And Creighton, what is your definition of hot? I haven't seen that in any legal.
Well, by hot, I mean that you will test positive on a drug test, and that it is intoxicating. And when I also say hot, I mean that when these products are marketed and they claim to be under the 0.3 limit, in fact, they test well above that. The products that we seized, we had already previously in various operations gotten those various products and tested them, and all of them, despite what their packaging said, tested well above that legal limit and well into very potent intoxicating effect levels of THC.
So John, to your point, hot meaning there are lots of people. I'm in the National Guard. You know, people have to take urinalysis test, and if you take some gummies or you drink a drink, that's one of these things that we're flashing up here on the screens. If you're in the National Guard, if you're applying for a job at a solicitor's office or a law enforcement agency or a business where there's a drug test that you have to take, you would take that drug test, and you never smoked a joint, but you consumed one of these products, your test results would be as if you had smoked marijuana and multiple joints, and that's what he means by hot.
And to Jennifer, with just one question, I'm told by the lawyers who were at the numerous bond hearings in Richland County yesterday that you repeatedly asked for really high six-figure bonds for these people who were arrested, but the judge kept on lowering your request substantially. What do you say to that?
I say the judge did what he thought was appropriate, and after I asked for what I thought was appropriate.
Okay. Thank you.
So I was wondering, for those individuals that may take one of those edible drinks and they do test hot, not knowing that they were actually taking something that's as potent as smoking 3 joints, how does that play out in the court for them? You know, if they're taking a product that may appear to be under the limitations that
When I'm talking, this is an HR policy for businesses and agencies. In other words, they could lose a job opportunity is what I'm saying. It could ruin an opportunity for them. Whether, if they're driving, you know, that would be another, you know, if they're pulled over by police officers, that's what you're talking about. I was just talking about in general.
Or if you're on probation.
If you're
probably shouldn't be using these if you're on probation.
It could have, there could be a legal effect to that.
And if you killed somebody while you're...
Yeah.
You can't claim that I didn't know. You intended to get intoxicated, and you are therefore responsible for the consequences of everything you do while intoxicated.
That's a great point. So in South Carolina, voluntary intoxication is not a defense. So if you drink one of these drinks I was talking about and get super high where you lose command of your faculties and commit a terrible crime, it's no defense that you were out of your mind on drugs or alcohol or any intoxicant. You're just as guilty.
Yeah, you think you're drinking a THC-infused drink, and it ends up having, you think it may have half a joint worth of effect on you, and it has 6 joints effect on you. You don't get to hide behind the fact, well, it was in a pretty little pink package. I didn't know any better. And to Solicitor Brackett's point, you could kill yourself or kill someone else.
And just to go back to that, I want to be clear. look at these images, okay? And so when people try to claim, the people that are selling these try to claim, oh, I had no idea that this was illegal. Look at how these things are marketed. There's the warehouse right there, but when you see those cartoon characters with red eyes and a joint hanging out and a big marijuana leaf and the fruity, flavors and all of that intended to market, no one can, and with common sense, can look at these and the way they're marketed, the prices that they command, and the customers that are coming in to buy them, and claim that they don't understand the purpose of these is to intoxicate and that they're illegal.
There's the example Creighton was talking about right up there. Yeah.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah. A cartoon Obi-Wan Kenobi.
As an old Star Wars fan, that one kind of
Not Alec Guinness Obi-Wan Kenobi, the cartoon, right?
That's the second.
Yeah.
Question for the Attorney General. There were media reports yesterday indicating that President Trump is interested in reclassifying marijuana as a Schedule III drug. I'm curious if you have thoughts about whether it is equivalent to prescription painkillers or whether it should be classified.
Look, I have always advocated for marijuana to be rescheduled, what the appropriate scheduling should be. I'm willing to have that conversation, but people are talking about legalizing it for medical or recreational purposes, but it's currently a Schedule I. If you look under the regulations for Schedule I, it says it's highly addictive and it has no medically recognized application. I mean, cocaine's a Schedule II. They're even saying it has I believe it's schedule. Yeah, cocaine has a medical application to it under the regulation, but marijuana under the law does not. So if people want to pass all these laws to study the health effects or the medical application effects, we're violating the very federal laws that govern what a scheduled narcotic is. So I think that in order to even have that conversation, you got to start with the rescheduling of it. What that reschedule should be. I'm open to that conversation, but it should be rescheduled if you're going to even have the conversation.
The law is what the law is, and there's no doubt that there needs to be a lot of attention, as Representative Wooten has said, paid to this issue. But this is the Wild Wild West, and that is an untenable thing, and that's why these officers up here are doing what we needed to do and stop these things from being openly sold in the stores.
Yeah, so you mentioned investigations statewide. Can you briefly talk about kind of the other biggest ones besides like Richland and Lexington counties, just where maybe other big storage units were or other products were seized from?
Well, so the operation that was coordinated by the Attorney General's Office State Grand Jury Division and working with SLED and the DEA, that was Midlands-based, okay? There was a lot of other agencies represented up here who, in coordination with that central operation on the warehouses that Creighton talked about, they conducted their independent operations on retail stores around the state of South Carolina. I would defer to those agencies, and I'm sure you can talk to them offline. Obviously, we're limited in what we can say. One thing I did not say, and I would like to be able to put this on the record, that everyone who has been charged in this case, they are all presumed innocent until and unless they're proved guilty in a court of law. So we do want to give them that presumption of innocence, but again, we're very confident at the robust nature of these investigations and what they've revealed, and we're going to continue our aggressive efforts in this area. We'll take one more question, and then...
We've been told that people were from Pakistan and India who were arrested largely. Is that true? I think Chief Keel said they were foreign nationals.
They are foreign nationals,
Were they
yes.
from India and Pakistan?
I can't confirm that, but they are foreign nationals.
Some of the individuals are naturalized citizens from other countries, and I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. And we'll let this be the last question. However, I would defer to other individuals up here who may want to talk to you on onesies and twosies, on a case-by-case basis, obviously bearing in mind these are ongoing investigations. So, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, during this press conference, a group calling themselves the South Carolina Healthy Alternatives Association issued a press release in response to this presser, and they said that this week, multiple law-abiding business owners across the state were arrested and hit with unreasonable drug trafficking charges when their businesses were sworn by law enforcement officers and their legal products and hard-earned dollars were seized. It adds that nothing in the state law bans or regulates the sale of hemp or hemp-derived products. I wanted to just get a response.
Well, I was not aware that they were intimately involved in the investigation. I mean, they're basically making a statement based on what they think they know, not what the evidence actually shows. That's fine. They can have that opinion, but the reality is this is not targeting law-abiding citizens. I mean, the evidence in this multiple operations shows that these people knowingly were selling products that they knew were illegal. They were trying to evade law enforcement from finding out. They were purposefully engaging in this kind of conduct. This just isn't people selling something that appears to be legal and they didn't know any better. So that is a statement based on what they think they know, not actually what is true.
General, you might also read it, the small print probably says paid for by the national marijuana industry.
Yeah. I mean, there are special interests out there who are going to just make blanket statements. Again, we don't have, we don't have a political agenda on this. This is really a public health and, as mentioned earlier, a national security issue. And so, right now we're just trying to keep our communities safe. We're not trying to target small mom and pop businesses. We're not trying to target retailers and people who are just trying to get by. We recognize that there are people out there trying to sell products, and they want to know that those products are legal. They don't want to sell an illegal product. They're going out of their way to do their due diligence. These people are not doing that. And again, we're not litigating this today. We're not doing an opening statement. We're not putting witnesses on a stand and doing a close. This is not a trial today. Okay? The people who make statements like that and the people who might criticize what we're doing here today, they don't have access to the evidence of the ongoing investigation and the very massive operation with over 40 law enforcement agencies working together. They don't have access to that. They haven't seen any of the evidence, and they're prejudging it without having even heard the evidence. And you haven't heard all the evidence today. We're just giving you what we can legally say at this time. Okay.
Were they packaged here, or were they delivered like that here?
Both. Yeah, a lot of these are warehouses that were distributed from all over the country, and some of it was manufactured and or packaged here.
They had the packages, they filled them, sealed them, sent them off to the store.
Both. All right, so we have to call the press conference again. I would defer to others who are up here in their own individual capacity representing their agencies. I want to thank the Chief of SLED, Assistant Special Agent in Charge Tooley. I want to thank Sheriff Dorsey. I want to thank Sheriff Kuhn. I want to thank Representative Wooten. I want to thank Sheriff Jeff Bailey. I'm sorry, I admitted Jeff Bailey earlier, standing right behind me. How's your knee? Good. Excellent. He had knee surgery a few months ago. And Solicitor Brackett and Representative Wooten, and I can keep going on, and all the police chiefs and the representatives of the various law enforcement agencies as well as our team. I want to thank all of them. If it wasn't for people standing beside and behind me, operations like this could not occur, and it's because of them. And there's hundreds of other people who are not standing up here today. It's their work. It's them laying it on the line that got this done, and I want to thank them personally. So thank you all so very much. Hope you all have a very Merry Christmas. Is that you, Chief? Oh, there you go. Thank you. Oh,